and gentlemen, and welcome to the meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel for the 28th of July 2022. My name is Stephen Davies and I'm the chair of this panel. The panel is currently streaming from the council offices in McMahon Street in Hurstville. The panel members who make up the panel today are Nicholas Skelton, expert panel member, Julie Walsh, expert panel member, Fiona Prodmaru being the community representative on this panel. We as the panel have been appointed by the Minister for Planning to determine specific development applications, including the development applications that are on the agenda today, in accordance with the requirements of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. The panel acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which the meeting is being broadcast as that of the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. Excuse me. I'm required to advise you that under the provisions of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, this meeting of the panel is being live streamed and will be made available on the council's website. In accordance with the revised meeting protocols during COVID-19, interested parties wishing to make representations to the panel were requested to register a summary of their interests. A total of 6 registrations were received and forwarded to the panel. The panel will review the registrations and advise the council officers they wish to hear the oral submissions from the following persons who will be called during the course of this meeting in the order of the items as published on council's website. The first person for LPP 03222 is for 3 Cross Street, Kyle Bay, is Alison Fury, and then also Cross Street, Kyle Bay is Benjamin Black, David Christopi, and David Di Chiara. We also have for 505 to 507 Rocky Point Road, San Susi, Mike Raimondo, and Al Abraham. Applications to be considered. The panel have received a completed assessment reports from the council staff for the 2 development applications. The panel have undertaken inspection of the sites and nearby locality of the 2 matters on the agenda today. We will deal with each application in order as published on council's website, being Mod 2021-0127, 3 Cross Street, Kyle Bay, and Mod 2022-0029, 505, 507, Rocky Point Road, San Susi. As required by the local planning panel code of conduct, panel members are required to disclose any conflicts of interest in respect of these matters on the agenda for a panel meeting. The relevant forms prescribed by the New South Wales Department of Planning have been completed and are tabled for council to be included in the online minutes of the meeting. No panel member has disclosed a conflict of interest in any of the matters on today's agenda. As we progress through the matters on the agenda, only those persons who have registered to speak will verbally be able to make representations to the panel, and each person who has registered to speak is requested to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. I would ask those persons that are invited to speak to the panel via the Teams that they speak clearly and of a volume that they will project into the speakers to assess those viewing the live streaming so they can hear clearly what is being said. To manage the live streaming process, all speakers should leave their camera and microphone turned off until their turn to speak is called. At this time, I remind these people that any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive language used may result in the author being exposed to liability, for which council and the panel take no responsibility. Once we have heard all the oral submissions on a particular application, we will move on to the next application. Members of the public are free to continue to listen to the broadcast. The determination of the application will be made in a closed session, which is not live streamed or recorded. The determination will be available on council's website once confirmed by the panel, and usually within 2 to 3 days of the meeting being held. We'll now call the first item, and so I will be calling on Alison Fury for 3 Cross Street, Kyle Bay.
Can you hear me?
We can just hear you, so is it, could
okay. Okay, I'm speaking up right now. Will I begin? Will I begin?
Yes, no, that's better.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank the council very much for your examination of the modifications that were put in from the two-storey building that became a three-storey building, and also for allowing me to speak now. My first concern with the newest modification, from what I can see is the third planner, is that the landscaping is of much concern to me and possibly the area. The last requirement by the council was that the newest modifications would incorporate quite a bit of vegetation, less concrete exposure to walls on the northwestern corner, which would be totally in keeping with the landscape as is and the panorama as seen from the entire length of the street, because this is a corner block. From what I can see, the planner, architect and builder have ignored this. They've decided that what they are regarding as enormous retaining walls, unnecessary in this corner, should be included now in their plans, with minor vegetation on the top and complete, I suppose, refusal to put any native vegetation or vegetation that would be in harmony with what was there, in the sense that it was native, the lay of the land was soft, and it went beautifully with the area. It's just more concrete and less appeal. Also, and I'm speaking rather quickly, I know this, the fencing on the side of the house was originally supposed to be heavily discussed with neighbours, went up higher. It is proposed, from what I can understand, to continue at such a height, going all the way down almost to the nature strip, which is the side fence, front-facing, western aspect of my house. The applicant has continually referred to that aspect as a secondary frontage, which really is the main frontage with everything that's seen and the view that you get, and even mentioned to me when he first was planning on doing the building that he'd like a really high fence down there. I can't understand how this is in the area, and also I find it like a prison fence beside my house and a great eyesore. The tree that the applicant's desperate to remove is the only sign of native vegetation left on that corner. The landmark tree, and was perfectly fine, according to arborists, when the first DO was put in. Now he wants it removed, as well as expanding his room and the veranda, which means that he'll get a very, very nice view down the road. I feel that that tree, if it disappears, has to be replaced with something that will be native and in harmony with the area. Other builders seem to manage to do this, and certainly not in such a position as his, which is the corner entry. Next, garage size. Thank you, council, so much for asking, or saying that they must, fill in the excessive illegal excavation that just about destroyed everybody's hearing and breathing around this area. It is supposed to be filled in, and I find it almost congruous that such a large house is just allowing itself a two-car garage. I'm suspicious. My neighbours are suspicious. We'd like that to be heavily monitored. The ethics of the builder, or the applicant, are greatly down. He constantly seems to do and then ask forgiveness and ask it to be, or allowed rather, by the council. I feel that his certifier whoever it is now, because there is absolutely no signage, is compliant, if not perhaps the planners. I do not know this for sure, but it seems that comes in his way or no way at all, and will constantly put in new modifications that really disregard any of the council regulations. It's causing criticism.
I will interrupt you and just say if you could just keep your comments to what is actually being proposed rather than perhaps, you know, what you think that the applicant might do in the future, just so that we can concentrate on those matters.
Very sorry for that. I'm just concerned about the size of the garaging now, and I am thrilled that the council has asked for it to be, I suppose, revisited, looked at, but a concern cannot help but worry me, and as I've mentioned, the local neighbouring houses. They're thinking, we have to conform, but when a new modification comes in, this doesn't, they never seem to totally conform with what the council wants. I'm forever grateful that you've looked at this and examined and seen what's happened, and I'm even more hopeful that you will look at the fencing, the retaining wall, the disregarding of the landscaping that is suitable for the area, and hopefully question more carefully what is ever put into modifications. Planners seem to not really care what is asked of them.
I think we're getting on to sort of just a general discussion about other things. So I'm really wanting you to say if you've got any concerns. You've made you concerned about the adjacent landscaping and the tree, and if you could be more in your terms, what impact this may have on your amenity or property.
Well, the adjacent landscaping, which I feel is being ignored as is required by the council, seems to be being replaced with very high retaining walls which will impose on my property and the view from the entire street. It will also look very heavily over my entertaining area at the front of the house, which is set back. It's not that prominent, but the focus of his verandas seems to be the northern aspect, particularly at the front, where it is very close to my building. And I feel that this will make life more awkward for me and look down the entire street. I certainly.
Thank you. I think it might be that that some of the panel may wish to ask you a few questions, which may assist in answering some of our queries in relation to your objection. We've read your objection, and so I think I might open it to the panel to ask them to see if they've got any questions to you, which might help you explain some of these issues.
Hello there. Hi, my name is Fiona. I'm the community representative. Can I just ask you a question? Just this afternoon when we did visit your property in the rear yard and we were facing the common boundary with the neighbour, there was an existing block wall there. When standing in your backyard, how high is that block wall roughly, do you think?
I'd say over 2.1 metres easily.
Right.
Easily.
Are you aware that the proposal before the panel tonight seeks to put a 1.8 metre high fence above that wall?
I am aware of that, and okay. I'm wondering.
I just wanted to confirm. Thank you very much.
I just had a question following on from that. What is your position in relation to that proposed 1.8 metre high wall? My understanding is that it's proposed as a privacy amelioration to the pool and turfed area to the proposed property, proposed development.
I understand what you're saying. I'm concerned about what it will actually be constructed of. I feel that and I haven't, of course, been on their site, but I feel that the retaining wall that is already there is possibly above ground level. So if they put another 1.8 metres on top of that, that's going to be an excessively high wall along my side passage. It's so imposing. It's almost scary in some ways. I understand they need to have some sort of privacy. Not that I know who would possibly be able to look into there, but I feel that they're going higher and higher. And as I did allude before, very early days when I spoke to the applicant very early on, he implied that he wanted an incredibly high wall going down the side passage almost to the nature strip, which to me means he likes a lot of privacy or doesn't like vegetation. I'm wondering why. I think will be too high and too imposing, and I'd really like specifications on what plans to be like as the next stage of the work.
No, I think that's all our questions. I might just ask a question on the concrete wall, block wall beside on your rear boundary. Is that something that you are happy with in the materiality? Is it something you want some treatment on if it were to remain?
Are you referring to the block wall that's already there?
That's already there, yeah.
I would certainly like it tidied up, possibly lowered if he is planning on making a giant prison-like fence. At least make it a little shorter. I'd like it to be absolutely certain that it's of the top quality it should be, and really rendering it and neatening it up wouldn't be bad, considering it's my side wall.
Okay, no, thank you. That answers my question. Thanks very much. We will go now on to the next speaker, who is Benjamin Black, representing the owner of the property, I believe.
Hello to the panel. Can you hear and see me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Is that clear? Am I? The last speaker was a little low for me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have with me the owner and the architect. The owner may wish to speak in response to, and the architect in response to questions of the panel, but I'll be in the driving seat for responding to the assessment report and any concerns that the panel would have or questions. Just in terms of background, our firm was brought on board to resolve and assist with this matter since the last LPP referral or deferral, and we've tried to instruct the architect to clarify the plans, and that's what you have before you, so it's clear to everyone what has been constructed and what the proposal now seeks to do. And there are a number of aspects of the planning report which are concerning to me. It makes general commentary around bulk and scale and amenity impacts. It doesn't really dive into what they may be or analyse in any way or detail what those impacts are. And I think that goes to a flow-on effect of a misunderstanding of what the proposal is and what we're seeking to get approval for. So this development, which has been dormant for many months, can actually move forward. So I would like to, if I could, just break it down to give the panel some clarity, seeing as this is something which is relatively new to you, as to the different stages of the site, the approval, and where we are with this modification application. So to that end, I'd like to share my screen. If you can see that, that is a photograph of the previous house on the site. You can see it was excavated into the property Baronia Street is to the bottom of the page, Cross Street on the right-hand side.
Sorry,
Um,
Ben. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay, just bear with us. There you go. Okay. Okay.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it now.
Great.
Thank you.
Fantastic. That was the previous house, obviously demolished now, as the panel will have seen during site inspection today. Two-storey form, garaging off Baronia Street, excavated Baronia Street frontage. The assessment report talks about there being a natural landscape or natural topography in that corner which needs to be respected, but there really isn't nothing of note there. I mean, it has a gentle fall and that was about it. There's no, as you can see there, no significant landscaping. But the site is benched in at that point. So that created a starting level or a starting point for the new basement, which was already below what would have been a former natural ground level. That's very important because this goes to the retaining walls that are proposed and what is now being sought in terms of the approval. This is a useful photo in responding to what was just discussed then by the neighbouring property. This was obviously the former pool on the site in a central location looking north towards number 52, which is the neighbour who just spoke. And you can see there's a clear level change there. So the site and the area naturally falls to the northwest. This site would have fallen in the order of about 5 metres diagonally across towards the northwest prior to this building being placed on it and the excavation and earthworks occurring.
Ben,
But you can see there's a clear overlooking into the neighbour.
Ben, sorry to interrupt. It's Fiona. I'm the community representative. Just while you're on that drawing,
Yes.
or sorry, that photograph, would you yourself or the architect know that what's shown there in terms of the finished sort of paving? I mean, is the approved level of the
It's lower.
ground floor, is that similar to that level there?
It is lower. It is
It's
lower.
So the approved ground floor level is lower than what we're seeing.
That's correct. It's very,
Right.
very clearly depicted on the plans. If you look at the
Yeah.
northern elevation, it will show a dashed line for existing ground level line, and it actually drops below existing.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So that was the previous site as it existed prior to anything happening.
While
And it's-
we're on that, seeing that we're there,
Yes.
Stephen Davies, I'm looking at the fence as it is against the pool. If you're actually dropping the ground level further, your fence then currently as built is over 2 metres, and then I think you're proposing another 1.8 above that, so it's going to be nearly 4 metres high against the neighbour's fence. Is this what you understand?
No, that's not how it's proposed. The fence is designed to sit 1.8 metres from the approved finished level of the backyard of this site. That stops the residents of this property looking into that neighbouring site and vice versa, looking back up. And obviously that number 52 is to the north, so there's no shadowing impact. But it's purely a boundary fence scenario, and that we're dealing with a natural topography which drops in that direction. But it isn't intended to make a fence any higher from this side than the 1.8 metres that you would typically expect.
Thank you.
The retaining wall you would have seen on site, and perhaps in some of the photos, is 1.2 metres high constructed at the moment, so it's not a finished height. But you can also useful that photo as well because you can see there that the neighbouring property has no windows in that particular photo. There is a window forward at the more closer to the street frontage, which looks back to the subject site.
So Ben, sorry to
yes.
interrupt again. It's just Fiona. So
Yep.
because of the level difference between both sites as existing, is it correct to say that the proposal, which proposes the timber fence above the block wall, so standing in the backyard of the development site and looking towards 52 Baronia, you would have a 1.8, 1.9-ish high metre fence, but as a consequence of 52 Baronia being lower, they would have a wall that's of greater height.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
This photo,
Just
if I
on
look-
that, just to clarify, so how
Yes.
high do you think the top of the finished fence will be on the neighbour's side?
it would be in the order of 3 metres. 3.5 metres. But it's not substantially different to what's existing. There's already a taller fence there. I mean, I understand that's a brush box fence that we showed in that last photo, but the top of the railing there, the metal railing, it is the additional fence is only going marginally above that height as existing.
You heard the neighbour ask for a rendered finish. That the wall is a block wall at the moment, and the neighbour's side of it is quite unfinished. You've heard a request from the neighbour for that to be rendered. Have you got any comment on that?
Well, I mean, it comes down to, I guess, the Dividing Fences Act and what can be agreed upon. There's an access issue I can see where you know there's legally you need to be able to be given consent to go onto someone's property. We can't assume that would be the case. But in any event, it's a civil matter between two property owners.
Would your client be prepared if the neighbour wanted a smoother finish rather than a rough concrete block fence on her side, that you might offer that as part of the combined fencing?
Sure. If this is something I haven't really discussed with the owner, I don't want to put words in his mouth or commit to anything he isn't prepared to do. So it could, perhaps after I've finished speaking, he could address that particular comment.
Okay, thank you.
I was also going to very briefly point out that this photo here at the Boronia Street frontage, you can see that the neighbouring property, number 52, has an elevated terrace above the garage. The finished level of that garage is comparable to the height of our proposed retaining wall. And then the dwelling, obviously 2 stories above that on that particular property. And that goes to the point of there's claims that this will unreasonably add to the bulk and scale of the development. I think that term's used far too loosely these days, but also in this report, because the bulk and the scale is represented by a number of factors, which includes the large homes already existing and approved on this property and also on the neighbouring property. And I'll go to the next part, which will, I think, tie it all together. So the approval is for I'm going to stop sharing if I can. Great. Okay. So the approval is for a stepped retaining wall in the location of the northwest corner, and this is really the most discussion about in the report, in the assessment reports to do, as it was at the last planning panel meeting. Understandably so, concern from the neighbouring property being proximate to their site is the design and the location of those walls. So what we have approved in the dashed purple.
Ben, you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, we just lost you for a minute. Just a sec. We're just having some technical difficulties.
That's all right.
We might need you to repeat the last few things.
That's okay.
Said. Sorry.
Right. Fantastic. I was worried I might have lost you for good, so that's good to know. All right. So the approved wall is the zigzag purple-shaped wall. The dashed hatched area is a wall that's been deleted and instead replaced with a white wall that sits behind it, and then it just simply all shapes back to the approved veranda. And on the lower to that wall, and that's an approved wall, as I say. Lower to that wall is a new retaining wall which sits in the location as shown, and it's lower than the approved wall, and it includes planting. So as you saw on the photo of the existing site, that area is already disturbed with building form and artificial landscaping. It doesn't contain a natural landform. And the intention here, together with the landscape plan, which is detailed and it's submitted for council's reference as part of the application, is to have hedge planting all the way along this side boundary and in the planters, and retain that grassed area as already approved, albeit in a slightly modified form. We're not seeking to push additional people towards the neighbour, albeit it's the front of their property and they have a balcony there that looks towards the street in any event. There is no additional acoustic concern that could be created because there's already something approved there anyway in the form of a grassed area and the pool itself. There is also the concern related to the privacy screen. So approved along the northern edge of that veranda was a condition 13, which required the placement of a privacy screen. Now, all we have sought to do is push that screen out to the grassed edge that has already been approved. So what was approved before is a veranda with a condition for a privacy screen on the edge of that veranda and then a grassed area behind. So the privacy screen, in an odd way, cut between the veranda and the grass. We're simply seeking to combine those spaces and push the privacy screen out. And of course that will benefit the neighbour, but my client is very much interested in having the privacy screen there as well, and he has a young family. He wants that area private. So there isn't an intention here to create this new overlooking of the neighbour. In fact, it's the reverse. And we have the planting design which supports that. Without the modified proposal, what you would have is the approved zigzag wall and a much taller wall presenting to the street. This proposal seeks to break that down and has a wall which will in fact tear down the site, and you can see it in the northern elevation here. So the white wall here is the approved wall. The yellow is the nib walls proposed to create a wall around the space, the approved grass space. But the level doesn't change of the grass space of the turf area, and off those nib walls we would have the additional privacy screen constructed. But then forward of that, adjacent to the street frontage, slightly to the right, there is the yellow wall, and that shows a new wall. Again, it's got a reasonable setback of some 4 metres to the street frontage, so it's not like it's right on the boundary, combined with landscaping. And also the previous approved design didn't have any details for the wall. What we're seeking to do is, in addition to the landscaping, but sandstone face or even sandstone block those walls. And we'll have the landscaping within it, above it and surrounding it. So it'll be quite I would suggest, a pleasant appearance from the street. And that's picked up there. This elevation at the boundary doesn't give the appreciation of the stepping of the wall and also the landscaping integrated into it. The privacy screens there visible for the panel. And
Benjamin, is there landscaping then between the proposed fence that's leading down that and that setback wall of 4 metres?
Yes, that's right. There it is there. That's the landscape plan that's lodged with the application. So the hedge planting along there, taller hedges, lily pillies, lower hedges at the street frontage and hedging in the planter boxes. The driveway space obviously doesn't contain landscaping, and that's designed to give privacy to both the neighbour but also to my client. He doesn't want to be looked upon either.
So you're having. So can I just ask you how you've got
Yes.
the screen fence plus landscaping in front of that? Is that what you're suggesting?
That was, sorry, the hedging is forward of the walls between the fence and the neighbour. Sorry, Stephen, is that the question?
No, well, I was just thinking if you were wanting to move that privacy screen across to the edge, as you suggested, do you having some sort of planting on the neighbour's side of the privacy screen? Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh, no, it's all on the planting is entirely on the neighbour's side. The privacy screen sits at the northern edge of that turf space, which is indicated 21.5 square metres.
Yep.
The privacy screen is literally on the edge of that space. You have a landscaping planter and then a step down in the hedge. So.
Okay, thank you. That's fine.
Yeah, great.
Ben, sorry,
yes.
while we're on the landscape plan, there's there's a key. One of the plants is called PT, but I can't see it in the schedule. And I just
PT is-
wondered if you could clarify what that was, because that seems to be in the revised planter design. And a question also was, it doesn't seem as though there's any cascading planting, and I wondered whether that's something that would be considered by your client, given the height of, you know,
Yes, absolutely.
the retaining walls there.
Yeah. By all means, that would be the desired outcome, as far as I'm aware. The PT on my plan is, I won't try for the botanical name, but the common name is yellow wave.
How high do they go?
That indicates 1.5 metres of height.
1.5. Okay, all right, thank you.
But you might, for example, Silver Falls would be an appropriate the sort of draping plant, which it grows in a hardy way in these locations and would fall over the edges of the sandstone if that was something the panel wanted to introduce as a condition.
Okay.
Silver Falls.
Thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
Okay. I think I've addressed everything I need to address. I hope that's clear. And those items relate back to condition 13 of the draft conditions, and it contains a number of items. The items aren't numbered, but the first one's retaining walls. The second one is retaining planter walls. I would request that, given the detail in the architectural landscape plans, that second item is deleted, and that also the third item is deleted. That third item is requesting that the basement walls be removed, but the basement walls create the foundation to build this space. That's the reason why we didn't remove the walls that were illegally constructed, as we did in other parts of the property, because here we've got something above it which needs to support it. So it's not as simple as just removing the walls. And also down the bottom of that page, second from the bottom, privacy louver. Given everything I've just said, we would request that that part is deleted, as the detail on the plan is sufficient to manage that aspect. That is all I had to say, unless there was something more from the panel for me, and the client and the architect are here to address any questions also.
Thank you. I'll just quickly ask if there are any more questions on those particular walls. Yes.
We went to the site. There was no certifier sign on the fence. Is there currently a certifier for this development?
I'll defer that question to the owner. David, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi, David. There was a question raised about the certifier.
Private certifier. Yeah, it's still the same private certifier. Tony, I think it's from Ace Building Approvals. I haven't spoken to him for probably close to a year, or just under a year, since we got the stop work order. His sign, I'm not sure what's happened to his sign, but it was there up to the stop work order. Since we got that stop work order, yeah, I haven't contacted him, but he's still private certified.
Can I just ask a question? Have you had the opportunity to read the report to the owner?
No, I haven't. I've only received bits and pieces from Ben, town planner.
Do you, just to clarify, the report does require that a substantial area within the rear portion of the site that's been excavated is to be backfilled? Correct. Okay, so you're aware of that? Correct. Okay. And I'm sure we've shown that on the plan also. Is that correct? On the back section for it to be back? Yep. I just wanted to make sure you're aware. Yep. There was one more thing the top of my head. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure if you were listening earlier. The neighbour raised some concerns about the finish of the block wall fence that's currently constructed. Just wanted to see what your thoughts were on finishing that wall.
Look, I don't have an issue with this. I've had numerous discussions with Alison.
Yep.
We don't see eye to eye. That's true. We've got we clash every now and then, but I have emphasised numerous times that the wall will be rendered, and I'm even happy if the paint was going to be the same paint which is on my side of the fence. I'm happy to acrylic render that also. So I don't have an issue with that. Alison is aware of that.
Okay.
But for some reason,
Yep,
I don't know, it just doesn't.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments from the applicant? Any questions? Yes, we've got one more question. Two more questions.
Oh, hi, it's Julie Walsh. I had two questions. Just going back, I was concerned about the height of that block wall in relation to the next door neighbour's rear yard. I think we worked out it was about 2 metres above her ground level, and if you put a fence above that, that's 1.8, that would be 3.8 metres. And I just wanted to clarify that the planner's statement was that the previous brushwood fence, that was the dividing fence between the two properties, was, I've written down 3.5 metres high above that neighbour's existing yard level. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure what height it is on her side. I've only been over there a couple of times. I do know when I purchased the property, there was a large retaining wall on her side, obviously, because the land does drop significantly. On the side that you saw the brush fence, the existing fence, it was only about 1.2 metres high. So, to be honest, I don't even think that's legal. It was quite low and you could have just fallen over. It was a very old home and a very old fence. From my understanding, and Ben will be the person to answer this, but I thought it should be 1.8 from my natural ground level, and that's what we're going for. I'm not going for anything more or less. Now, unfortunately, from her side, it is a lot bigger than that because of the drop or the floor in her land. So looking at her side, it'll probably be well over 3 metres. But what other option do we have? Do I not put a fence on my side? Do I have a low fence of 1.2? Do I not have a fence at all? I'm not sure. I thought legally I was able for privacy to have a fence to go 1.8 metres from my natural ground level. Existing now, it will probably be only about 1.1, 1.2. The wall hasn't been finished yet. It's being built out of blocks, and we were going to continue that once the job site continued.
So I think the proposal is to put a 1.8 metre Blackton cap fence above that block wall.
Well, when you say it's the block wall,
there's a wall constructed of concrete blocks.
Correct.
That's there at the moment that we estimate to be about 2 metres above the neighbour's ground level.
Okay. Yes.
So your proposal is to put another 1.8 metres above that. Is that correct?
Well, it would be from my natural ground level to the top of that wall. It would be 1.8.
Right, and that's a paling fence, or?
That's a block wall fence that will be rendered.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be. So it'd be 3.5.
Sorry, the plans we have before us, and I'm just sorry, Ben, I'll just refer you to the northern elevation. They indicate a block boundary wall with an a finished RL of 28.5, and to roughly 28.56, and a timber 1.8 metre high fence is proposed above that block wall.
Yeah, but my understanding that is an error on the plans. It has to be an error. The history there was that the fence was shown to demonstrate that a large part of the front walls at the northwest corner there were sitting behind the fence. And I think this is just a leftover on the plans. It should be total height of block wall 1.8 metres above approved finished backyard level.
Sorry, so the blue line that's suggesting the timber fence should actually be block wall fence.
I have a purple one, but
Yeah, that's probably the line. So instead of, it's not timber, it's block wall, full height.
well, that's right. I think it has to be because it's already 1.2 metres or 1 metre, as David says, above the existing approved level.
Are we talking about the boundary wall, or are we
Correct.
talking about?
Yeah.
the wall
We're
that's on
talking
the
about,
backyard?
yes, on the common boundary with 52, yes.
Okay, correct.
So it's
yeah,
meant to be entirely block, no timber.
correct.
And so we're assuming you're saying your understanding now, notwithstanding the plans, that it's 1.8 metres above your proposed ground floor level at that in the rear garden adjacent to the pool.
Correct, sir. Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So my question was, I don't know whether either to the architect or the planner, whether there might be some other, I mean, obviously there is a desire to have, to deal with the privacy impacts between the proposed development and that rear yard area, whether there's any other treatment above the block wall that's been constructed that might satisfy that requirement that wouldn't be so, I guess, overbearing to that neighbour.
Well, we could look at doing something such as, you know, a metal or some type of timber extension above what's been constructed to give a variation in the material to the intended height.
Okay. And my other question was, you indicated that there were some issues with condition 13. Have you gone through either the planner, probably the planner, seeing the driver seat, through any? Are there any other conditions that you object to?
No, there are no other problems with the proposed
Just those
condition.
ones that you identified in 13.
Correct.
Thank you.
Good, thank you, and we appreciate your time and
Thank you.
the explanation patiently to our questions. So thanks very much for that.
Okay, happy to-
And we will now then move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you. We're now to 505 to 507 Rocky Point Road, San Susie, and we have Mark Raimondo who wishes to address us.
Good afternoon, panel chair and panel members. Thank you for your time. First of all, would like to thank the council and the assessment officer for the efforts in the recommendation for approval. We've obviously looked at the assessment report and are mindful of council's concerns and considerations, in particular in relation to privacy. So we understand that council, the recommendation also includes the deletion of the upper floor proposed communal rooftop area based on privacy concerns, in addition to reinstatement of the communal, I guess, open space, or deletion of the private courtyard of one of the units on the upper level. And in addition to the reinstatement of the access stairs in its original location, which is adjoining, I think, unit number 502. We've just, I guess, we spent some time, the developer and the architect and myself, just going over on how to resolve, to see what outcome can happen. And we've just kind of stumbled upon the issue that in relation to the configuration of the units, the reinstatement of the original access stair, sorry, I've just got to scroll back and forth and just look at my plans just for reference. The master bedroom of unit 502, I'm not sure if you've got access to the original plans for that to be reinstated, but the issue is that that may potentially conflict with the amenity of that master bedroom unit. So it's probably less than ideal, because I guess from a building point of view, we might actually have to have fire screens on there. The amenity might not be so great. And we're just looking at maybe some consideration if, for example, the new proposed relocation of that, I guess, access stair be retained in lieu of reverting back to the originally proposed, approved access stair, which is adjoining unit 502. But besides that, we don't have any concerns in relation to proposal. We understand that council's consultant urban designer supports the proposal, and obviously council did raise concerns in relation to privacy. That was more in relation to the use of the communal open space. Our request kindly is if the panel could consider the proposed location of just that access there. It's obviously to reiterate, it's not, providing communal open space. It's just for service access. That's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask the panel if they've got any questions for you.
I do. The electricity transformer down on street level, I noticed that the shop frontage was glass and is now masonry. Is that a requirement due to the electricity transformer?
Okay, something like that, and I'll be honest, that's something maybe the architect and the developer can probably maybe shed light on in relation to their technical expertise. So I understand that they're registered to speak as well. So unfortunately, I would love to answer that question, but unfortunately, it goes beyond my knowledge. Unfortunately.
With the proposed roof terrace,
Yes.
You were aware that in the, I think, original application and before the court, that it was determined that this wasn't appropriate. It was agreed, I think, at that time that it wasn't appropriate.
Yes.
Partly for overlooking. Do you see any change in the situation now as to why the terrace might be necessary or required on that?
Oh, no. We've got no objections in relation to that deletion of that communal open space. We've read the report. I understand where council's coming from, understand the privacy issues. So we have no concerns in relation to that, the deletion of that proposed communal open space on that rooftop. The question or the request to the local planning panel is in relation to the relocation of the access stairs as proposed in the modification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So we
I
understand where you're
missed
coming
that
from.
in that previous. Thank you.
Mark, it's Fiona. I just had a question. If you look at the floor plan on level 2, specifically unit 202, there's a balcony extension there to the northeast.
Okay.
Just a bit concerned about potential privacy impact from the northern side of that balcony to the dwelling house next door. I do appreciate it's the front yard, but the balcony is raised and there is a bit of a side setback there. Would your client object to a fixed privacy screen on that northern side?
I'd love to answer on behalf of the client. That's probably something, unfortunately, I can't answer for them. Me as a plan, I probably wouldn't raise a concern, but respectfully, it's probably appropriate to ask the builder if that suffice with them.
Okay, no worries. I'll repeat that.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you. Any other questions on?
I just want to ask, so you're content with the conditions then?
Yes. So we're satisfied with.
Yeah.
We're satisfied with the conditions. We're just requesting that if in relation to the access stairs, it could be retained as proposed in the new location, because technically, if you reinstate where it actually is, it kind of conflicts with the master bedroom window. So I had a brief discussion, very brief discussion with the builder and the architect. They may be able to shed light in relation to, I guess, detail and whatnot, in relation to the technicalities and how it all works. But my understanding is that you probably need, I think, what's called a fire screen. So the window in that location, realistically from a amenity point of view, probably wouldn't be great. Yes, you might be able to get some ventilation and whatnot, but in relation to I guess, getting some passive solar access or infiltration to the room is probably less than ideal.
Yes. So Mark, just to confirm, I'm looking at the level 5 plan and the stairs on the northwestern side of the communal open space. Are they the stairs that you're referring to, which can also be seen on hang on.
Yes, they're visible on the elevation, so you can see. So wherever, in simple terms, where there's a cut in that building.
The eastern elevation. So you're suggesting that the stairs on level 5 that are visible in the eastern elevation be retained?
Yes, we're requesting or asking the panel to please consider this because it does have implications in relation to the layout and amenity of that unit where the master bedroom is on, I think, unit 502.
If it's for maintenance only, would a ladder suffice?
Yes. Okay, I think you might have to speak to, maybe the appropriate response will be from the builder in relation to the requirements and whatnot.
The original approved plans indicate I think it was a bathroom in that location.
Yes, that's correct.
And an ensuite. Why can't
that's
the
correct.
why can't the layout be reconfigured?
Okay, we could potentially consider that, but what I'm kind of getting at is, look, it's probably, we're just kindly requesting that if the panel could consider our request in relation to that relocation.
Yeah.
We can obviously accommodate, you know, this as a condition, for example, as is how it is now. We're just saying from a amenity point of view, it's not the best outcome.
Thank you. Noted.
Yes.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any comments from Mr. Abraham?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And please, you know, if you've got any comments, please lead on.
Yeah. No, thank you for the opportunity of letting me speak and just say a few comments. I won't take too long, and I'll probably answer some of Fiona's concerns that she's asked to Mark. Look, as far as the location of the stairs, and as Mark did express to you, it's one of the two. Either of it will work. We don't have a problem with it. The only issue and the only request that we're actually asking you to consider is the fact that the unit layout at the moment, the way we've laid it out, it's actually got some really nice views of that unit, looking out to the bay. And the concern is if we start changing with the unit, it's going to affect really the living space of the unit by actually putting back what Fiona said, the bathroom, and having an ensuite on that position, because that's going to eat away off the bedrooms being back all of them to the front section of the unit, which is going to eat away from the living space. But if I mean, the stairs are previously were constructed from concrete. At the moment, they will be constructed from concrete. From a street point of view, to be quite honest, the way we're proposing for the stairs at the moment, they'll be impossible to see from the street in the future, whereas the other stairs, possibly you might see them a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. Whichever way you prefer the stairs to be, we're going to end up doing them either there or on the other side.
Just while you're there, is it possible to align them somehow to the wall rather than have them, you know, coming out so far from the edge of the building? It seems, you know, they've become now a very prominent element on the roof rather than being a discrete alignment with the building.
But either way, it's actually the stairs, whether the proposed ones or the ones approved previously, they both are aligned with the building. So the ones that we're proposing at the moment, they're actually aligned with the edge of the building. They don't intrude outside of the building at all. So it's just the same wall lines, same follows on that elevation. It's actually flush all the way up to the top. So it doesn't intrude or doesn't extrude out at all.
Ali, could you do? Could you have
I'm not sure.
Sorry, could you have the like the ladder style?
Look, the ladder style makes it harder to, because we've got solar panels on the roof, so it makes it so much harder to go up and maintain, and then take, if in the future when we have to maintain panels, change panels, and work for the on the roof to take materials up there, it's just so much harder to work on the ladder. See, we're proposing to have enough solar panels to run the whole common lighting in the building, as far as the basement and as far as all the foyers. Everything will be running off solar, which is, it's something I thought would be very beneficial for the building at the moment. Considering with all the energy prices and everything's going up, so there's a fair bit of panels to power up the building, and that's actually, I think it's a very good point for the future of the we're heading into.
And I assume the individual owners may have an opportunity for having panels on the rest of that roof.
100% if they want, and in the future, if the roof will give them enough actually space. If someone wants to run their own panels into their own units, 100% they can.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the panel? No, I don't think so. That assists us. Thank you for clarifying that. And I think that now we don't have any other speakers, and if there are no other matters to be raised, we will now.
I think Fiona had a question about that privacy screen. Yeah,
The privacy.
Yeah, so it was unit 20. So just on unit 202, just the northern side, would you object to a privacy screen being fixed in that location because the balcony does protrude out closer to the side boundary?
Look, I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but the problem with the privacy screen is, one is to maintain that planter box that is going to be on there, and there's a 4 metre, I think there's about 4 or 4.5 metres actually separation to the boundary.
Just for the section of the balcony though, not for the planter. I just meant for the portion of the balcony.
Yeah, no, the section of the balcony, but we'll have to. Does that have to go on top of the planter box, or because if it's got to go on top of the planter box to actually avoid to achieve the privacy?
I wasn't suggesting it go on top
that you're looking for.
Just the accessible area of the balcony.
That was just
on the northern side.
On the northern end, not along.
Not on the planter at all. Just on that portion of the balcony that's extended.
Look, I mean, I don't have an issue with it, to be quite honest.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So if it's something that makes you guys feel comfortable with it, by all means, it's not a problem for me.
Okay, thank you. On that basis, I think that we will now retire, and we can close the meeting and have deliberation on these matters. Thanks very much for your assistance.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.